They asked 1,400 mental health professionals what do they think is the cause of this steep rise in anxiety and depression among young people. And the number one cause listed by far was social media.
Welcome to the Experience Health Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Vassar, an online holistic health practitioner, helping high achievers conquer weight loss resistance, gut issues, and low energy by getting to the root. On this show, we're shifting the paradigm on healing through nervous system regulation, functional nutrition, root cause protocols, and sustainable life changes. If you're ready to reclaim your energy, restore your health, and feel like you again, you're in the right place. So let's dive in. Today's episode is a powerful one, especially if you've ever felt overstimulated, exhausted, or emotionally scattered, but don't quite know why. We're talking about digital addiction. How too much screen time is silently rewiring our brains, draining our energy, and disconnecting us from real life. I'm joined by Mary Catherine, a certified life coach and one of the few coaches certified to treat digital addiction. She's currently writing a book on how screens impact us physically, mentally, and relationally, and most importantly, how to reverse the damage. If you've ever felt like your phone has more control over your life than you'd like to admit, you're gonna want to listen to this episode. So let's dive right in. Mary Catherine, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Rachel. Thank you so much for having me on your show. This is going to be great.
Absolutely. So I want to dive right in by getting straight to the point. How bad is the problem of screen addiction today, and how do we know?
Well, it is bad, Rachel. It's bad for any and all ages, but listen to this. Politico magazine last year in April published a survey of 1,400 mental health professionals like myself, and they asked them what do they think is the cause of the steep rise in anxiety and depression among young people. And the number one cause listed by far was social media. And so
Mm,
here we have the professionals working with the people who are struggling, and they're saying we're seeing the cause as social media. And of course, it's definitely affecting us as adults as well, but it is just unreal the negative effects that it's having.
yeah. What are some of the so it affects people's mental health, especially for young people. Before I ask my next question, I'd love to know, for people to know, why is it worse that they're seeing for younger people compared to adults?
Well, younger people's brains are more susceptible to anything that is addictive, okay? And so we can talk about some of the addictive properties that are built into screens, and young minds that are not fully grown yet are more susceptible. The human brain is not fully developed until around age 26. So that tells me that all of your life, during that time period, your brain development is very affected by your environment. What do you expose your brain to? What is it? What do you not expose it to? What is it lacking? That literally helps to physically shape your brain. What connections are made? What connections are not made? And so, while again, too much screen time is bad for all of us, it's particularly bad for young people's development.
Mm, that's interesting. What are some of the things that they've built into social media that is hijacking people's brain, rewiring it?
Well, the social media companies have come out and told us that they have hired psychologists to teach them addictive properties, and then they have built those properties into their platforms of social media and video games. And so the endless scroll, of course, that's going to give novelty, right? And so that's one reason why we have trouble paying attention to something that's quote unquote more boring, or just listening to a speaker or a teacher, is because it's not new and engaging and colorful and all of these things that we see on the screen, whether it's social media or video games. And so novelty is one of them. The fear of missing out is so much bigger because people can post new pictures or new things at any time of day, literally. And so we stay up late at night wondering what we're going to miss, right? So the fear of missing out is huge. And of course, the bullying is just exponentially more online. Yes, bullying happens in schools, but now kids can't go home and get away from it. It's at home too, it's in their pocket.
Hmm, interesting. So these the endless scroll, I feel like also has an effect on like dopamine too, right?
It does. It does. social media and video games both activate that dopamine system, which is the same system that drugs and alcohol activate. Okay, so it's the same
Yep.
pathways. It's the same pathways.
And
And
sugar.
when you, right, and sugar, yes. And so that, being elevated with the endless scroll and being on video games, your dopamine level stays high during that time. Whereas if you take a drug, it will spike and then it will fall, and the addict will,
Mm.
have a desire to take another hit of the drug. But when you're on a video game, it's going to stay elevated like that until you stop playing, which then, the parent tells the teenager, get off your device, and there's this giant meltdown. Well, partially it's because they know that their dopamine level is going to drop, and that's not going to be pleasant.
Mm. Yeah, so they're getting upset because they're actually feeling negative effects from getting off a video game. Interesting.
Right. It's not just an emotional decision that, oh, I don't want to
Yeah.
get off this game. It's their brain chemistry as well.
Yeah, interesting. What are some of the warning signs that screen use has become harmful versus just habitual?
So I would say if your screen use is creating problems in other areas of your life, that's a big sign that something is out of balance, right? And so
Mm.
some symptoms that we can see would be withdrawing from other people. When we just want to be on our screen checking or in your room by yourself, right? That is a big sign, withdrawing from others. Like we mentioned before, the anger, the meltdowns that people have when you say it's time to get off the screen and eat supper or time to go do your homework. That meltdown is an indication of too much attachment to that device. You're too attached. It has that addictive grip on you. Okay. Then in younger people, lower grades due to a lack of ability to focus. We can talk about how too much screen time affects your ability to learn. You're going to have,
Yeah.
poor communication skills, less eye contact just because of the lack of practice, right? We learn as we grow up how to have conversations, how to, you know, read body language and to make contact with people in an appropriate way. And when that is missing, it's just missing, right?
Mm.
you know, they lose interest in things that they used to enjoy. And this is not just a developmental thing of they grew out of it, but what happens is, like we said with the dopamine, these other activities that they used to enjoy give an appropriate amount of dopamine spike and fall, right? And it doesn't have that addictiveness to it. But now that they have those huge spikes, the little spikes don't mean anything to them. And so they can't
Yeah.
feel the enjoyment that they used to feel. So,
Yeah.
low motivation, not interested in other things. And one of the saddest things is, and I know you've seen this, Rachel, is, especially in young people, just that the what I would call the zombie face or the flat affect. And they just kind of go around with this blank face. People need to wake up and say that's not normal. It's not okay. It's not just, oh, this generation is different. That's a sign that something's wrong. They're hurting. They're not full of life and joy. Our younger years are supposed to
Yeah.
be the years when we are the most carefree, the fewest responsibilities, the most joy. And yes, as adults, we're supposed to be joyful too, but when you're a kid, that's your best time. And I just get so
Yeah.
sad when I see these kids just walking around like a zombie, and it's not supposed to be that way, and that should spur us to action. The same thing is true with adults. When we have that then low dopamine, we're not going to feel joy and connection like we should.
Yeah. That's true. I definitely do see that lack of enjoyment from people with normal activities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like I think what happened like a few years after 2020, people
Mhm.
started like getting off their screens and started like going into the nature and stuff like that, and they're finding enjoyment in little things like that again, trying to detox from social media. But so I do see for some people it's getting a little bit better when they are able to get off of the screens. But I know the last like few years, I live in Alaska. So I like never saw anyone outside. And now when I see people outside, it feels weird. Like people are like out in their yards. I'm like, what you doing there? Because I go outside every single day on a walk, and I'm used to seeing no one. And so when I see people, I'm like, what you doing? Or we'll see kids like playing in the yard. It's like, oh, people are finally like acting like kids again. It's very exciting. But there is definitely very bad years there for super long time. I'm seeing some improvement with some people, but it's still a really big issue nowadays that needs to be addressed for sure. Do you think that most people are aware of the damage that the screens are causing to them?
I don't think so. I think in a general sense, people are aware of the problem and they're realizing, hey, I shouldn't be this attached to my phone. My teenager shouldn't be this attached to their iPad. But they don't know like the actual science and facts behind all the different ways that screens damage us. Again, adults and younger people as well. And so that's a lot of
Hmm.
what I'm trying to do by speaking on podcasts is to raise awareness. But I don't want just to be a gloom and doom person. I want to
Yeah.
say, hey, there's help, there's hope because I know we also know many parents and individuals who have tried to reduce screen time in their home and have failed because it's so hard. And that
Mm,
again shows you like how hard it is when a family really struggles and it just creates all of this fighting and fighting and then they give up just for the sake of peace in the home.
yeah.
And that's where I hope to be able to come in as a coach and say, let me help you. And
Yeah. Give the actual tools. Mhm.
right, right.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just, as a, nutritionist, nutrition coach, something that's really common and hard for people to kind of let go of or reduce their amount of is eating sugar.
Mhm.
And I feel like sugar is very similar to screens because it's kind of like all over. You get ads for like sugary fast foods or whatever all the time, and it's all around you. I would even argue though that breaking a sugar addiction would be harder, sorry, easier than a screen addiction because you don't have something sugary in your hand all the time. You don't have to have your phone with you all of the time. Everyone around you isn't constantly holding a cell phone or constantly like everything people do nowadays for entertainment, it typically revolves around a screen. So I
Mhm.
would argue for most people breaking the addiction or the screen addiction would be harder than actually breaking a sugar addiction, even though they have similar things in that they're all over. Screens seem to be a lot more prevalent in people's lives nowadays. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's very hard to break. And I think there are, maybe to your point, a lot of different ways in which we quote unquote benefit from screens or that we are attached to them for different reasons. And not just
Yeah.
like with sugar, it's you get that dopamine spike and it tastes good. But that's kind of, one category. Whereas
Yeah.
screens, we can use it for education and for communication and for learning and for this and that. And it's become so culturally accepted that you're like, I would be weird not to have my phone, or I would be weird not to be on social media. And so there's the social pressure as well that's like really hard to break away from. And so we can
Yeah.
easily make the excuse of, I need this. And so one thing that I'm really happy about is that a few different companies have now started to make cell phones that have a screen, but they do not have the hardware that is necessary to connect to the internet. And so that way, children and teens can have a phone, but they're not going to be going online. They're not on social media. But again, parents can have that peace of mind of my kid is at the friend's house and they have a phone in case they need to call me and whatnot. And so I think that's definitely a positive step these days is for children and teens to be able to have a phone, but without the internet and social media aspect of it.
I grew up really blessed. I didn't think I was, but in that my parents didn't let me have my first phone until I was 14 years old, which is like crazy for my time period of growing up. But it was really nice because then I didn't grow up with that like constant stimulation. We didn't even play video games. Like the most entertainment that we had actually, I had like some games on my computer, but not much. Most of the time we would just like watch movies or YouTube or something like that. So I still had something, but like I couldn't bring my computer with me wherever I went. So I had a lot of time without screens, which was very, very nice.
Yeah.
But a lot of people like iPad kids is kind of like the joke nowadays where they're like constantly tied to their screen. They can't do anything about it. So I'm very thankful that my parents were able to do that for me. But nowadays it's really difficult to keep your kids off of a screen. Especially when like all of their friends have screens, they feel left out. They're not able to, connect with people. I felt that a little bit when I was growing up, but it wasn't super weird to not have a phone when I was growing up. But I would love to, before we dive into what people can do to help reverse the damage and get off of screens or reduce their screen time at least is
Mhm.
to I'd love to dive into what or how screens are actually rewiring our brains, like how it rewires your brain, your physical body, your mental health, and also your relationship. I'd love to dive into how it affects these areas of your life.
What I would say about that is that you have the initial wiring of the brain as well as the rewiring. So the initial wiring, what happens there is that our brain is composed of different parts, right? And there's one part which is the limbic system, which is where our emotions are housed, anger, fear, anxiety, things like that, which is in the center of our brain. Then another part of the brain is your prefrontal cortex, which is right behind your forehead. And that part of the brain is where your higher level thinking takes place. Your decision making, problem solving, communication skills, self control, all of those things. And so you want that part of your brain to be well developed and in charge, right? That part of the brain is actually the last part to develop. The human brain is not fully developed until around age 25 or 26. And so to me, that says that our environment really helps to shape how our brain grows or how it has deficits, right? And so when you're on a screen, your limbic system is very activated. You have that excitement, that, novelty, the what's next. You have a little bit of that. And for sure, with video games, you actually have the fight or flight system activated. On the surface, a person playing video games, they are having fun, they are excited, and having a pleasurable feeling, but the body is interpreting physical danger. And it is in the
Mm.
fight or flight mode, which is the stress mode. And so that, we
I
already
feel that
know
more than
that,
anything.
yeah, we know that long-term stress is, of course, very damaging to our physical bodies, to our physical health.
Yeah.
And so,
All right, what's up, you guys? We had a little bit of a complication with our internets here, but we're going to dive right into how screens are rewiring our brain.
right, so that initial wiring, when a kid is on a screen too much, the connections that are supposed to form, the neurons, the brain cells that connect the different parts of the brain together, those are not being accessed and exercised and formed. And so the part of their brain that has that self-control, that decision making, the communication skills is going to be lagging behind. So it can
Mm.
be the initial wiring is deficient, right? So then for those of us who are older, also, social media and video games can give us ADHD symptoms. I don't know if you've ever felt that before, but it actually, trains our brain for constant change in stimuli. And
Mm.
so we're constantly distracted and constantly looking for more and more, and then we're not able to slow down and focus, right? And so with the brain, it's definitely true. If you don't use it, you lose it. And so pathways that are not exercised and used in a normal way, they don't get the attention they need and they can literally die off. And so again, whatever
Wow.
is focused on gets strengthened and the brain puts energy into that part of the brain. And so
Yeah.
that definitely the, physical wiring of the brain can be affected.
Wow. So people are presenting with ADHD like symptoms, communication deficiencies, as you mentioned before, mental health struggles. How does it kind of affect the physical body, would you say? Like, does it
Well, we're having
affect?
a big rise in metabolic syndromes, which I know you would be sadly familiar with, but it used to
Yep.
be that only a small percentage of adults had metabolic issues with weight gain, high blood sugar, all of those things. But now we're seeing prediabetes and type 2 diabetes in children because of they're just so sedentary. And so those kinds of issues are cropping up. Pediatricians are seeing it who said they used to never see it, and now it's like every kid that walks in is struggling with these metabolic syndromes. And so that's obviously not good. We're creating an unhealthy generation. And of
Yeah.
course, sitting there, whether you're on the, scrolling or on a video game, what do you want to eat? The sugary snacks, right? That's what's quick to go
And
grab
processed
while you're still
foods.
on the screen, and that's not healthy.
Yep.
Right. All those processed foods that aren't healthy for us.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of ways in which physically, and also, we need physical movement. And when you don't have that physical movement, your body is not going to develop in the way that it should.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting movement is extremely important. I mean, getting enough like steps in during the day increases
Mhm.
your lifespan. No, it decreases mortality rates by about like 44% or something like that, according to studies, just a random number, but a lot. It's really important for longevity. And the fact that people are starting life out not getting enough movement in, that's not good.
No, it's not.
That's a little terrifying. Like,
Mhm.
we're like already seeing the effects that it's having in adults today because chronic disease, autoimmunity,
Mhm.
obesity, and other diseases such as that are skyrocketing. It's insane. I believe in like they're projecting in like 2030, every like nine of out of 10 people are gonna have like some sort of a chronic disease,
Mm.
which
We need to
is,
start reversing that. That's
yeah,
terrible.
it's not, I mean, one in four people are getting cancer,
Mm.
which is insane.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why they're not addressing like what we
Right.
can do to help prevent these issues in the first place too,
Right.
which
Basics.
getting outside is a really important
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
Getting off the screens. So
Mhm.
yeah, let's dive into some things that people can do to help reverse damage. What are the core keys? What are your core keys for healing from digital addiction?
Yes, so we've already mentioned a few of them, which one of them is getting outside in nature. Okay, so the energy level, the atmosphere outside is calming, barring a tornado or hurricane, it's pretty calm
Yeah.
outside. And so that is the level of stimulation that we're designed for, right? Until the past maybe 150 years, humans spent the majority of their days outside. And so nature has a calming effect on us when we are all wired up in our fight or flight system and all hurried and harried. We need to go outside to calm down, right? And so the more time we can spend
Yes.
outside is great. Another part of that, I think, is we're supposed to have awe about nature. And I'm not talking about just going to the Grand Canyon, right? That's what people typically think of when they think of a sense of awe. But we need to have a sense of awe when we see a beautiful flower or a shiny rock. And we've so lost that, but we need to get it back. And just that, that the world is bigger than me, right? And
Yeah.
just to I think that just has a great calming effect on our nervous systems that are just frazzled these days. And so more time outside is one of the keys.
Love it. Yes.
And a key that is closely connected to that, which we've also just mentioned, is physical movement. And that has to do with child development. And like we've said, every age we need to move more. But here's one thing about, child development. A young child moving around is what develops their vestibular system, which is your balance, your inner ear, that's part of your vestibular system. Your vestibular system also regulates your level of arousal. Okay? So if you have a child who cannot seem to calm themselves or regulate themselves, that's their vestibular system. They're not able to control their arousal level. But again, children need to move in order for the brain to make those connections within the brain. And so then, of course, at every age, we need to be walking and moving just for our general health as well. We need to be moving around. And so those two are kind of connected
Absolutely.
because it's easier to move outside. You can move inside, but it's a lot easier to play and run and have that physical movement and hiking outside. So that is another key to brain health. Also, definitely getting enough sleep is huge. Enough sleep affects every part of our body and our moods as well. If we don't get enough sleep, we're grumpy the next day. But so screens block that as far as just the amount of time because we just go on that endless scroll at night and we can't make ourselves go to bed. And so we lose out on time sleeping, but we also lose out on quality of sleep as well with all of the blue light that gets into our eyes. The blue light tells your body that it's daytime. And so your body will be producing daytime hormones at 2 a.m. And so then when you
Cortisol.
finally go
Yep.
to sleep, your body still can't sleep. you can be exhausted and can't sleep because the blue light has told your body it's daytime. So
Yeah.
sleep, we need that for our brains to restore. That's when we detox our brain and the rest of our body. And so that may, I'm sure contributes to disease as we're not detoxing at night.
Yep.
And
Oh,
so
huge.
adjusting to make sure you put a high priority on sleep is huge. Another key would
Absolutely.
be to have face-to-face conversations and interactions, and that attachment between parent and child is huge. The face-to-face interactions is literally how people learn to communicate, how they learn about emotions, how they learn to control their emotions with parents teaching children. And I know, parenting is hard, but it's so worth it when you put in that effort and you have this little human who is thriving and doing well and able to be successful because they have a healthy brain and a healthy body. That's just so rewarding. And so, yes, it's hard, but it's so worth the effort that children and teenagers, and we all need face-to-face connections. We need real friendships. Unfortunately, that's one thing that social media really does a good job of faking, these online relationships that feel like we're communicating. We feel like we're attached to this person, but we're really not. And so,
Yeah.
not that we can't ever communicate with someone online, but we've got to have in-person close relationships. And so putting importance on those to say, hey, you know what? We're not going to have, screens at the table. We're going to sit around and talk with each other as a family. We're going to have friends over. We have to have face to face because that's just a part of human flourishing is close, healthy relationships. And also just being able to be mindful and be in the present moment. I feel like in modern society and social media has made this worse. Our minds are somewhere else. They're in the future, they're in the past. They are not, we're not grounded in the present moment of knowing what's going on, you know, with our five senses.
Yeah, those are definitely the foundations of health that I help support people with too, because they're extremely important, helping you heal your body too. And so I love that those are the key principles in how or in helping people heal from the negative effects of digital addiction. So I'd love to get into some boundaries and routines that you recommend people to implement to help them get off or reduce screen time or help them break their screen addiction?
Mhm. So there's kind of two approaches. One would be when I'm talking with parents about their children, and then another would be if I was talking to an individual adult. So I don't know if you want me to pick one or do both.
For this one, probably do like individual adult.
Okay. All right. So, first of all, if someone needs a little bit more of a wake-up call, you can look at the screen time calculator that almost all phones have now that will tell you once a week, here's your average number of hours per day. And unfortunately, you'll probably be shocked in a bad way as for, how much screen time you've had or how much time you've spent on certain apps. And so, first of all, I would start with deleting as many apps as possible. I do that all the time. I just click delete, delete, delete. If I do not use it or I do not want it, I don't even want it on my phone, right? I also, for the few apps that I do use, I don't put them on my home screen. And that way I have to be more intentional about, like, yes, I actually want to go to this app, so that it's not as automatic or as easy. And I definitely have almost all notifications turned off. I can't imagine if my notifications are on, it would just be dinging all day.
I've
And
had mine
so,
off for years. I would go
yeah, just
crazy.
off. Yeah, just have those notifications off. We need to be able to tolerate being away from it, right? And it's so much easier. And I also say, don't have screens in your bedroom, which that's hard, but the bedroom is for sleeping and resting. It's not for entertainment and having a big screen TV in there. So I will say, I do keep my phone in my bedroom at night, but it is across the room. I'm not laying in bed with it at all, okay? And it's not the first thing I look at when I wake up either. I I do use it for an alarm, but if you're able to have your phone out of your room, guess what? You can go to Walmart and buy an old-fashioned alarm clock, which could be great if you're able to charge your phone outside of your room. I
Yeah.
also definitely turn on the do not disturb at night, and that way only a few people that I'm close to could reach me in an emergency, but all night when I'm sleeping, I'm not going to be disturbed at all. And so that just protects sleep so much. And another thing, this would be for someone who works outside of the home, which so many people don't anymore, but for those who do, what I found when I was working outside of the home more is that I would go on social media in the mornings, but then I would know, okay, I have to turn this off and drive to work. So it created a natural stopping point for me because one of the addictive properties is that there aren't built-in stopping points. It's the endless scroll, right? And so
Yeah.
if you say, okay, well, I want to spend 15 minutes on Facebook or 15 minutes on, Instagram or whatever, and then, so you can set a timer or you can have that stopping point of, look, I have to put this down and start driving, right? And do not text and drive. But anyway, so thinking about how you can create natural stopping points. Another thing is, definitely don't have your screen during meal times. I think this is a neat idea. I've known some people to do is either with their family or with friends. If you go out to eat, say, okay, everybody put your phone in the middle of the table, and whoever picks up their phone first, you're picking up the tab for everybody at the table. And so it's like, definitely having that face-to-face time, but saying, during mealtime, it's not the time for the screen. It's time for enjoyment of friends and the slow enjoyment of nutritious food. And so I would say that as well. And
Absolutely.
as far as video games, I just honestly see zero benefit to video games. What video games do for you is help you to be better at video games. I don't see any good qualities, any good benefits to them. So I would just say get yourself off that, right? They're just such a waste of time and so damaging with desensitizing us to violence and all of those things that are just so bad. So I don't say manage video games. I just say you've got to stop them. So that's my
Because once
take.
you get that like dopamine rush as like a young person, trying to just like only be on video games 1 hour a day,
Yeah.
like there's gonna be a lot of fighting in the house,
Mhm.
most likely.
Right. And so if parents can say, we're just going to zero at this, yes, there will be some initial pushback. But as the child or teenager engages more in real life and is able to enjoy other things as their dopamine level regulates back to what it's supposed to be, they'll start enjoying the things that they used to. And then you don't have to fight every single day to tear them away. And you don't have the,
Yeah,
temptation yourself either. And so, yes.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense. The hardest part is just, I mean, as an adult, the hardest part is just stopping for
Hmm.
sure. One app that I personally really enjoyed to help not or to help break my like I get on Instagram every time I open my phone is called One Sec, where it just adds like an extra step to getting on my phone. I accidentally set this thing up actually where it like completely blocked social media until like a certain time in the morning and I didn't know how to turn it off. I actually had to delete the app and then reinstall it because I couldn't figure it out. And I was like, wait, I actually need to like work during this time. Because I kept like not getting a task done that I needed to get done. So I was like, I need to fix this. But because I work on social media.
Right.
But it's really helpful because it adds an extra step to get on. There's like a thing where it like waits a few seconds, it makes you like breathe or whatever, and then it picks it, you have to pick an intention before getting on the app. So I found that really helpful to just like not get on the app because I didn't want to bother to wait like 12 seconds. Um, so that's a really good thing that I personally implemented. Is there good like apps or tools that you personally recommend for people to help them get off of screens and kind of add a little bit more resistance other than just like moving it away from the home screen?
Right. Um, there are not any that I personally particularly recommend, but they are out there. Either, like you said, that delay to make you stop and think, okay, do I really want to get on? Right. So that, and then there are also apps that will say, you can only be on Facebook for, and you set the amount of time, and that's the max amount of time you can have within a 24-hour period, and then it turns off and you have to wait until the next morning. So there are apps like that as well. I don't have any that I particularly recommend, but those can be helpful in helping us to pause or helping us to stop. And again, when we realize how hard it is for us as adults, then we think, children don't have that level of self-control and that willpower that we can have as adults. And
Should
so
have.
that's how, they
Yeah.
need so much more help than we do, but it's a struggle for
Yeah.
adults as well. It's struggle is real.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Another big thing to help people improve their sleep, you mentioned to like you keep your phone from or on the other side of the room.
Mhm.
I started doing that too. That was literally the only way I could break my nighttime, just like scroll.
Right.
Was just like not having it by my bed. Because if I get like bored when I lay down, I'm just gonna pick up my phone. But if my phone's not with me and I have to like get up to grab my phone, I don't want to do that. I'm gonna like grab the book that's right next to my bed
Right.
instead.
Hmm.
So that was huge for me. Also, you don't want those EMFs like right next to your head anyway. As like
Right.
the holistic
Right.
health side of me is like, let's not have those EMFs next to your head either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, keep it out of the room or on the other side of the room. I would recommend for people to buy an alarm clock. I actually have like a sunrise alarm clock, so
Oh,
I don't even
nice.
have any alarms on my phone anymore. Because
Nice.
then I would pick it up right when I wake up and then start scrolling. I was like, okay, I don't want to do that. So that
Right.
was also really helpful for me to break the morning and the nighttime scroll. So I really love that you mentioned those things because those are like some of the most important times to stay off your phone for sure. I would argue personally.
Yes, I think so too, because again, there's no stopping point at night other than our own willpower to say, I need to go to bed.
Yeah.
Well, going to bed and going to sleep isn't fun, so I'd rather scroll. So,
Yeah.
and so any little things that we can do like that really help and say, my phone is either not in my room or it's across the room, something to where I am separate from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
So, action items. Go implement those things.
Right.
No more doom scrolling at night.
No, that's right.
Can you give us a little sneak peek? Because you're going to be publishing a book here soon, correct?
Yes, I
Can you
am.
give us a little sneak peek into the book and something you're excited to share about it?
Yes, well, so I don't have a release date yet because I am self-publishing. So it should be sometime this fall or at least by the end of the year, but I've never done this
Takes
before,
time.
so
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
takes time, but it is in the works, and I'm very excited. And so we have touched on a lot of what's in the book. So the first half of the book is about detailing the problems, the
Mm.
addictive properties, how that works, the relational problems, the mental health problems, the physical health problems, the academic problems. And so it's laying out all the problems. That's the first half. The second half is going through those details of the keys, the nature, face-to-face, attachment, sleep, physical movement, being in the present moment, leaning on your faith. And so each subject has a chapter. And so
Love it.
yeah, yeah. And so I have been honestly disappointed in a lot of the other books that I've read about the subject because they will detail the problems, which is important. But then it's like the last chapter, they say, so stop being on social media so much or get off your screens. And it's like, well, that was really helpful, and so that's when I did so much self-educating to say, okay, how do we reverse this damage now that we know specifics about the damage? How do we reverse it? And so I researched on my own and found these keys of the healthy brain development. And so that's what I've put in the book. And so I'm excited to be able to share that when it comes out.
Amazing. Do you have a title yet?
I'm pretty close to a title. So I think the title is
Okay.
going to be something like Screen Time, Overuse, Addiction, and the Solutions. Because I think,
Love it.
some people aren't ready to call themselves addicted, but I think we can all raise our hands to say overuse. And
Yeah.
so, and overuse is a problem. There is no like amount of hours that turns you into addiction, right? And so just overusing is unhealthy.
Yeah.
So it's going to be
Absolutely.
something like that, pretty close to that.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Mary Catherine, this was a very powerful episode. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us, on breaking from screen addiction, why it's important, and what to do to help heal your brain. Um, For the audience, if you're listening to this right now and know your screen time is draining you more than it's serving you, just know that you're not alone. Pretty much everyone nowadays is in it with you. And there is a path back to presence and peace. Okay. So if you want help, if you want support in breaking free from screen overuse or addiction, you can connect with Mary Catherine. I'm going to have all of her links in the description down below. And if you loved this episode, be sure to subscribe for more and share this with someone who you think needs to hear it too. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Experience Health Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow for more. If you have a question, feel free to shoot me a DM on my Instagram at healthbyrachel with 2 A's. Until next time.